Hello everyone, I'm Morgan and welcome to Way of Living podcast, where you will hear empowering women talking about how you shouldn't feel stuck in an unfulfilling career and how to follow your dreams. Life is short. Live it to the fullest, and I hope you will feel inspired by their stories. Our life is not set once we decide on a type of studies. Our life is not set either once we go into a specific field. If you have listened to the podcast long enough, you should have got the message by now. Stacey is no stranger to career change. She took the uni route that was expected of her, worked on a family business, lived the corporate life, and ended up becoming a coach, helping creative women with their confidence. In this episode, we are talking about social media and how it can drag us down as well as bring us up, and what's outside Instagram. Anna will also share a few advice to feel good enough to start your own thing. Hi Hannah, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Morgan?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I'm very excited.
Yes, I am very excited. Thank you for having me.
So you are a professional at changing careers. Tell us who you are.
Yeah. So my name's Stacey. At the moment, and hopefully for life, I am now an accredited NLP coach and life coach. And I work with creative women who are struggling with self-belief, they're struggling with confidence, they're incredibly talented at what they do, but they just are too scared and too frightened to put themselves out there, as we all know. Imposter syndrome and the inner critic can take over. So I work with those creative women to help them really get the sales and visibility that they dream of.
Why women?
I think it's because I've experienced these things as a woman myself, and I do find that women struggle more with the self-belief and particularly those doubtful thoughts of thinking no one's going to buy from me, who's interested. I would work with men. It just tends to be women who suffer and struggle with these things more than men.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background? Because as I said earlier, you changed a lot. You worked in management, you work with your mom, you worked in corporate office jobs. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so really it all kind of stems from, well, even at school, I never had any trouble at school. I kind of sailed through school, wasn't particularly intelligent, but I did okay. Went on to college, kind of just more a case of going with the flow, and it's just what people did. And because I didn't really know that there was another option. Mm-hmm. I went to uni mainly because my best friend was going. So we went together, we went to Manchester Met University, studied event management. It was kind of just when event management was coming out into the world and becoming a thing. It was the first year that the university had put the course on, so the lecturers weren't the best. It was a bit of a rocky road, still not really feeling like I was where I should be, but it was the done thing. You go to university to study. I actually ended up so I did a placement year in my second year, and then I went back to university for my third and final year. But after I'd worked for a year, I actually could not settle at all for that third year, and I ended up quitting. So I left uni in the third year without a degree, not really knowing what I was going to do. I got some temp roles. I moved back home, got some temp roles, just doing office work. And then I landed a full-time role as an account manager for Best Western Hotel, the Best Western Hotel Group. Loved it. It was kind of a team. The team morale was amazing. I met some lifelong friends who I still am really close with now. But after about 18 months, it just became incredibly stressful. It was very target driven. They started bringing consultants. They started making redundancies. And I'm not I'm not the type that would sit back and let things happen. I would question things a lot, and I want to help, really. I wanted to help them improve things, but as a young 20-year-old, that wasn't appreciated.
Really?
And I kind of got, well, I ended up quite poorly. I ended up with shingles, and signed off with stress. And at the time, my mum had just started her own business that she was a year into. So she kind of said, that's enough. You've got to get out of there. It's not healthy. Come and work with me. Just do part-time. Help me on the phones. Help me in the kitchen, whatever it might be. Just help me out until you find your feet. So I did. And then 10 years later, we'd built a business together that became incredibly successful. So that was kind of the beginning of where things started for me.
What kind of business was it with your mom?
We made handmade jams and chutneys. So
wow.
we used the old school recipes. Mum had been taught how to make preserves by our gran, so her grandma. And my mum actually suffered quite badly with her health. So once she found that she was good at this, she just thought, well, I'm not well enough to work for anyone, but I know that I can do this, so let's give it a try. And she'd kind of just started it just because she loved making these products. She knew a couple of people that she'd spoke to who wanted to buy them already and stock them in their stores just in the local area. So she'd set it up as kind of a hobby, as something she just loved doing.
That's great. After that, you sold the company because your mom wasn't really great with it, wasn't really well, and you went back to the corporate world.
I did, yes. So we hit our 10-year mark in 2018, and we'd grown so rapidly in the 18 months, 2 years up to that point. And because of the way we were growing, Mum was really struggling to keep up. And I knew that I was I was approaching 30. I knew that there was more that I wanted to do. I definitely didn't want to keep the business without Mum, because it was her baby, really, her fourth child. And I just kind of sat her down and said, look, we've got to be realistic. We know that you can't carry on, and I definitely don't want to do this on my own. We've hit 10 years. We've done an amazing job. Let's let it go. So we did. So we sold in 2018. I took I think it was about 2 or 3 months off to sleep after 10 years. And then I got myself a role in just an office job, really, just marketing and event manager for an accountancy firm. And I've been there, about 18 months now. And I very quickly realised that I definitely don't belong in an office environment. So that's when I started to really dig deep into what it is I really want to do. And finally, at the age of 32, I've found what it is I want to do. And it's taken me so long. You don't get this kind of education when you're in school. They don't give you these options. They don't say, oh, she's really creative, what about doing this? Or but there's just no option to put your talents to the best use. So it's really hard to figure that out, and it takes all of these different ups and downs to get there. So that's where I am now. I'm definitely not staying in the office environment.
How did you, because obviously, as you said, we don't really learn about this at school and those options, and I don't feel like we learn a lot about entrepreneurship anyway at school.
No.
We learn how to work for someone, how to
Yes.
follow their rules, and how to make them money.
Yeah.
But how at 32 you found that life coaching was actually an option?
I think it was a reflection of my own experience as a young woman in business, of that feeling of not knowing where to go for help. I mean, my go-to motto, as Mum and I used to joke about, was, I don't know what I'm doing. And it was just one of those things that we used to say, I've no idea what I'm doing, but I just get up and do it. There was nowhere really for me to go, or no one for me to talk to when Mum wasn't there. And I think the reason that Mum and I did so well was because we had each other, and we were really good at having those conversations of, shall we try this? What do you think to this? What should we launch next year? What plan should we do next year? What should we set as a goal next year? And in 10 years, even some of that living together, we never had an argument about the business. We were so tuned in to where we wanted to take things, and we had that bounce from each other to have those conversations. And what I soon realized was, when she was poorly and when she wasn't there, it was incredibly difficult to make decisions and to know that, is this what I'm doing today the right thing? And that's when the doubt creeps in, because you start to question yourself. So for me, the life coaching came in as more, it's almost as though I'm looking out for Hannah then, and wanting to create something that will support her when Mum isn't there. So having that stability and somebody to just talk through those thoughts and processes, and somebody who can help you make those decisions.
Talking about decisions, how do you know that, because you were talking about self-doubt and how you work with women to help them with this,
Yeah.
and you experienced it, and how do you know or feel that the decisions you make, especially when it's big changes, are the right one?
Honestly, I don't think you ever do. I don't think you really know when it's going to be right. The biggest thing I work with my clients on is just making a decision. For me, it's all about action. And one thing that I've read recently actually is that inaction will fuel fear. So by doing nothing, you're just allowing space for the fear to build. But just by taking action, you don't give your brain time to worry. So if you're faced with a decision, it's just a case of, okay, what's my gut telling me right now? What would make me feel good? Which way do I need to go that's going to make me feel really good? And then just go with it. Just see what happens. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know that that's not the right decision next time. Or you learn from it. You make some changes. It might just be a really small change that you need to make, but at least you've tried. I think that's a huge thing when it comes to decisions, because we can spend so long thinking about things. It's just going for it.
Yeah, that's true, that we spend so much time thinking about what ifs, but
yes.
There is the time as well, and sometimes time is money.
Absolutely.
And how do you feel like it's not a waste of time when you change?
Yeah. So time's a big one, and that's something that I've been talking about a lot recently. I'm incredibly impatient.
Yeah, same.
I really struggle with patience, and if this year has taught me anything, it's that buzz of the moment seems to be quick win.
Mm.
And everybody's moving online, everybody's looking to okay, what one thing is going to make this for me, what one thing is going to open this up for me. And the truth is, there isn't one thing, and unless you start now, you're wasting more time. So it's about kind of, I spoke to somebody this week who started a business during lockdown from nothing, and is really facing that doubt of nobody's buying, I'm struggling, what am I doing? She's got 800 followers on Instagram, and she's just built this in lockdown. And there's that, well, why isn't anyone buying? And it's just about stepping back and thinking, actually, I'm going to give myself a pat on the back because I've started a business during a pandemic and I've got 800 followers on Instagram. And that's a wide reach, that's a wide audience. So what can I do that is going to help me really build a relationship with those 800 people? And the coaching thing comes in because it starts to alter your thinking. So instead of looking at it like, why are these 800 people not buying from me? You would question that in a way that would say, okay, what can I do that will help me build a relationship? What questions can I ask these people to find out what they want? And then by doing that, you're making the most of your time, and you're also celebrating how far you've come in a short space.
Mm.
And we very quickly forget that the people that are really successful have taken years. It's so easy to see somebody who has really, really succeeded and think, what have they done to do that? How have they done this? And it's taking that step back and thinking, these things take time, and it's okay to be patient.
Yeah, and I think as well, we hear so many stories, success stories of those people who made money quick.
Yes.
And so then we compare ourselves
All the time.
Yeah, to this fast pace. So, and especially for people like us who are impatient, we want it now. And we know that it's possible because we read one story 1 year that it happened.
Yeah. I know. I'm so bad at that. Comparison is something I have really struggled with this year. And don't get me wrong, it takes a lot of mental effort to get through it. It's not easy, but it's totally possible to overcome that and to start looking at yourself and close yourself off from those one stories, because for that one story, there's probably 10 stories about people who have only just reached success 10 years into working. But they aren't in the media.
Yes, exactly. And I think this year we have no choice but to be patient, because we have to wait and see. And for a lot of people, that's completely new.
Yeah.
How do you build clientele when you start when you work for yourself? Because obviously now you're self-employed, you have your own little business of life coaching and mentoring. How do you make a name of you, and how do you build clientele?
This is a really big one, and it's something that I've done a lot of work on myself, because when we had the product business, I always found it so easy. I really believed in our product. We loved our product so much that we would cold call, we would drop in tasters and say, give it a try, see what you think. And if they said no, they said no. It's fine. We'd just find other customers and other stores, and that was fine. But the shift from moving from a product-based business to service business has been huge for me. And it's that change of, I'm not selling a product anymore, I'm trying to sell me. And that brings up a lot of challenges, because you start to take things very personally. So the one thing that I would say to overcome any service-based selling is basically to try and think of your service as a service. It really is still a product. You're still selling a product. And yes, it is coming from you, but the service that you're providing is a product that is seriously going to help somebody. And building the audience and the clients has, for me, been a case of supporting them in their business and not being salesy, because that makes me feel icky.
Yeah.
But it's just about having a conversation, finding stuff out about the client. How long have you been in business for? What do you love about your business? It's about asking those questions of, what dreams have you got for next year? What do you really want to achieve in your business? Are you side hustling, or are you in this full time? Do you want to go full time? And generally just having a conversation as you would if you met somebody. And then it kind of just rolls from there. And then inevitably, usually when they think, oh, I'm really struggling, I'm going around in circles, I don't know where to start, I don't know what to do next, feel like I've tried everything and I'm not getting anywhere, then that's when the things trigger of, oh, I spoke to Hannah a few weeks ago, I wonder if she knows anything, and I've seen her post about affirmations, or I've seen her post about the inner critic, I wonder if she might have something that might help. And it's about being of service at the time when that person needs it.
Yeah. How do you advertise services like this?
At the moment, I'm just using Instagram. So it's just a social media sales. I've started working with local council schemes as well. So there's a group near us that support businesses with finance and business planning documents, but they're lacking an area of mindset and resilience, which I think a lot of business owners are really struggling with right now. So one thing that I've found in a lot of conversations is people rely too much on social media. So part of the coaching is to question that. Okay, so what else can you do? Where else can you look? Who do you know that might have a outlet for your product, or who could you collaborate with? Or I don't know, it's just reaching out and not focusing too much on the social media. Engagement can get into your head a little bit too much, so try and look outside of the box.
I think we get into the social media overwhelming situations because it takes so much time and effort to build a community, to post, to keep the engagement. And then when we finished with the social media and then we focus on our business, we don't really have much time left. And then because it takes so much space in our mind that we don't think what's outside Instagram or Facebook. I see it with my situation. I've got 2 Instagram accounts, one for the podcast and one for my private account. And lately my podcast one, it's been maybe 2 weeks now, I have no views compared to before on the stories. No views. For example, this morning I posted a story. I bring my child to school, came back, and then I checked how many people viewed my story after an hour. 0.
Yeah.
So in 24 hours, I will have a few, but just thinking that before, after like the first minute it was out, it was viewed by a few people. And for the last 2 weeks, the engagement is really low. So I spend so much time on my phone trying to find how to engage more and how to do this and how to do that. Yesterday, I spent my whole afternoon researching and doing things on Instagram. And I was like, oh, wow, it's 3:00. And because of this, it takes so much time. It's changing all the time. We just forget about the possibilities there is outside social media.
Yes, it's so easy to do. And it's funny you say that, actually, because I've had a few people say recently that Instagram engagement has really dropped. And I had a conversation with another coach about it, and it was just like, don't worry about it. It's happening to everybody right now. Like, don't take it personally. But I was exactly the same as you. I was like, what is going on? Like, what's happening? Where is everybody gone? And I think it goes back to that whole quick win thing. We've kind of been sold that Instagram is a quick win, and if you do well on there, you're going to do well. But, and I suppose especially with lockdown, we've kind of all cocooned ourselves indoors and stopped thinking about what the possibilities are outside. But people and business support people are still working, they're still online, and there's still connections to be made. So just have a little think about, what else could I do? What else could I do is actually a really good question. That sparks a lot.
Obviously, you were accredited the NLP practitioner, so you're now a professional at life coaching. How long did it take you to have this?
That was a 2-week program, where we were actually on site. So we did 5 days, and then we had a break, and then I think it was about, I can't remember now, 2 or 3 weeks in between, and then we went back for another 5 days. And then obviously pre-course we had homework to do. We had an assignment that we needed to complete beforehand to be accepted onto the live course. So it was about 2 months in total.
Because, obviously you advising people, women, to feel successful and to build their careers and stuff like that. But how do you advise yourself?
That is a very good question. I often have doubts, just like everybody else. But I think with my training and my fascination with neuroscience, I've kind of learned to coach myself. So if I find myself saying, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Like, nothing's happening. I can almost click my fingers to change that. And as soon as I hear those thoughts now, it becomes a switch of, okay, so you feel like it's not working. What else can we do? Who else do you know? And when did you last take a chill? Do you need to just sit and write? Do you need to just listen to a podcast? What is it you need to do right now that's going to change this? Do you need to put on some amazing music and have a little dance? What is it that's going to make you feel really good right now? And then when you switch that, that's when you start to think your best. I think that's just why I've fallen in love with coaching so much, because it just really changes what action you take.
Yeah. Question yourself. Ask yourself the good questions. Yeah. What are the biggest and best advice you'll give your clients who don't feel good enough to start something?
It's always a case of personal personal preference, depending on where they're at in their business. So for somebody who is maybe just side hustling and they're not quite brave enough to put their work out there, usually the thought is, well, no one's going to buy it. So the question would be, well, how do you know?
Good question.
And one good piece of advice that I heard on kind of in that regard is, you've no more proof that you'll lose than that you'll win. But we go to tell ourselves, our automatic reaction is, this isn't going to work. But you've no more proof that it isn't going to work than you do that it will.
That's a great advice. One question I always ask at the end of the podcast is, what's your view on success?
I love this question. So It's one that I've worked on so much this year. And for me, success is freedom. I think when I feel free to work and live and do as I wish, when I wish, I think that for me is success. It's when you have the freedom to truly live as you want to and not keep trying to put yourself in these boxes. That would be success.
Yeah, I think you're really over this corporate life when you were 22 and stressed and happy. I think a lot of people are searching for freedom, especially women. And that's why you have, I wish you all the success in this life coaching, especially to support women, because especially, you know, a lot of women, not all of them, but a lot of us become moms at some point.
Yeah.
And when we become mom, we have so much, I was going to say burden. I'm a mom. She's not a burden.
You're allowed.
But, you know, we have so much on our shoulders, responsibilities, and our moms and grandmas they've done it for years. But I think we have so much judgment and everything nowadays that we need to work because life is expensive, but we are looking for freedom, and that's why we are becoming a lot freelancers, self-employed entrepreneurs, and we need people like you who are helping us to feel that we are enough and we can do it, and in this man world still.
Yes, exactly, because that is still there. And I think that is one thing I've learned from going back to corporate after 10 years. The office environment hasn't changed. It is still very much a man's world. I don't have children myself, but I have friends who do work. A friend that I work closely with right now, I mean, she works full time. All her wage goes to childcare, but she wants to work. She doesn't want to be stay-at-home mum because she loves what she does. And that, I find it so hard to hear. She's incredibly talented and she could go freelance, but she's too frightened. And that is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about helping more women really step into their space, because it's totally possible to get that freedom.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Hannah.
Thank you.
It was so inspiring. You've got this very soft voice, calming. I think you really found your path. And as you said at the beginning, hopefully it will be for life, but I really hope so. And, you know, even if it's not, you will find something that you're passionate about again. I really hope the listeners can hear this very relaxing voice and feel But yeah, thank you so much for your time and for your advices. That was great to hear.
Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. It's been so good to talk about it.
Yes, bye.
Thank you, bye.
Voila, that's the end of this episode, and I want to thank Hannah for telling her story. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it on your social media because it helps me spread the message of motivation and support. It actually supports me too. And you don't know, it might reach someone who will feel inspired to follow their dreams. Don't forget, life is short. Live it to the fullest.